All right, so today we're going deep on social media,
Okay.
specifically the rise and fall of Snapchat.
Interesting.
You sent over some really fascinating articles and notes on this.
Oh, cool.
And honestly, I'm kind of obsessed with this whole story.
Yeah.
So the big question is this. How did Snapchat, an app that was once so revolutionary, end up kind of fading from the social media spotlight?
Well, it's a classic tale of innovation versus imitation.
Yeah.
And it really gets you thinking.
Yeah.
Can an original idea really survive when the giants come knocking?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like David and Goliath,
Right.
but with filters and disappearing photos.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
We've got Evan Spiegel, Stanford student,
Right.
with this kind of wild idea
Yeah.
for an app where photos just vanish after you see them.
Oof. Gone.
It's like magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2011,
Back then. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
The whole concept of messages that self-destruct,
Right.
what we now call ephemeral messaging,
Was totally unheard of.
it's like a brand new thing.
So investors were very skeptical. They didn't see the appeal.
It's hard to imagine something that doesn't exist yet.
It's that classic startup struggle.
Oh, yeah.
You pour your heart and soul into this project,
Right.
you launch it into the world, and
Correct.
nothing.
Nobody there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then something really interesting happened.
Okay.
It started gaining traction
Oh,
in this unexpected way.
interesting.
It was the high school and college students who really latched onto it.
And the young people,
Yeah, they were using it to send secret messages in class.
like a modern day passing notes.
It was pure organic growth.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, fueled by a generation that really embraced this idea of fleeting communication.
Interesting.
A modern twist on a classic.
Right.
Yeah. But of course,
Yeah.
this surge in popularity couldn't stay under the radar forever,
Right.
especially not with Mark Zuckerberg
Oh, no.
and
Yeah.
Facebook.
They were constantly on the lookout for anything
Oh, yeah.
that could challenge their dominance.
Right.
And Zuckerberg, being Zuckerberg,
Oh, yeah.
saw this upstart app gaining momentum.
Uh-oh.
And his first instinct,
Take it down.
neutralize the threat.
Uh-huh.
Enter Facebook's Poke app,
Yeah. Poke.
essentially a Snapchat clone
Total clone.
that flopped spectacularly.
It did not work.
It did not work.
Oh.
Poke went down in history as a prime example of how not to copy your competition.
How not to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
It really solidified that image of Facebook as the big bad wolf trying to squash the little guy.
Oh, yeah.
The optics were definitely not in Facebook's favor.
Not a good look.
But it speaks to a larger pattern with Zuckerberg and Facebook.
Right.
If an app or a feature posed even a remote threat, their strategy was either to acquire it or to copy it, often very aggressively.
Yeah.
And Snapchat was this constant source of innovation,
Always pushing the boundary.
helping out new features.
To left and right. Yeah, like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah.
First, there were stories.
Okay.
Those 24-hour disappearing photo and video compilations.
Yeah.
Then came GeoFilter,
yeah.
adding those location-specific overlays to snaps.
Right.
And then the real game changer, lenses.
Oh, yeah.
Those augmented reality filters.
I love this.
Like the infamous puking rainbow lens.
The classic.
Yeah. They tapped into this playful side of social media that was totally new.
It was the game changer.
And of course, Facebook took notice.
Uh-oh.
Cue the copycat symphony.
Here we go again.
Almost as soon as Snapchat rolled out a new feature, Facebook, usually through Instagram, was right there mimicking it.
Yeah.
Instagram stories popped up,
Oh, yeah.
mirroring Snapchat's core functionality.
Totally.
Then came Instagram's location tags and filters, direct response to geofilters,
Yeah.
and finally, boom, Instagram masks appeared.
Oh, wow.
Practically identical to Snapchat's lenses.
Wow.
It was like a constant game of cat and mouse. With Snapchat innovating
Yeah.
and Facebook imitating,
Following along.
but it wasn't just straightforward copying.
Yeah.
Facebook was actually quite strategic in how they implemented these features,
Okay.
often expanding on them
Right.
and integrating them more deeply into Instagram's existing platform.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it wasn't just a cheap knockoff.
Yeah.
It was more like taking inspiration and then building something even bigger and better.
Yeah, exactly.
And that brings us to the real turning point.
Okay.
Instagram's implementation of stories.
Uh-huh.
They took that core concept that
Yeah.
Snapchat pioneered and really supercharged it.
Took it to the next level.
And it worked.
It did.
Big time.
Yeah.
Engagement with Instagram stories exploded.
Oh, wow.
While Snapchat's growth kind of started to flatline.
Oh.
I remember reading that Snapchat's stock took a nosedive, plunging over 20% after Instagram stories launched.
That's a lot.
Yeah, talk about a punch in the gut.
Oof. Yeah.
So what did they do? They tried to pivot to shake things up and regain their edge. They made this bold move to refocus their app.
Interesting.
Primarily on content from close friends.
Oh.
Stepping away from that brand and influencer-heavy approach that Instagram stories was embracing.
That's a big change.
It was a risky move.
It was.
And ultimately, it backfired.
Oh, no.
Users weren't thrilled with the redesign.
Really?
The backlash was so intense that Snapchat was forced to backpedal.
Wow.
And revert back to some of those original features.
That's got to be tough.
It was a PR nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a social media disaster.
Definitely.
But as if the competition from Instagram wasn't enough.
Right.
There were other forces at play, too.
Oh.
I'm talking about the rise of TikTok.
Oh, yeah, TikTok.
Yeah, with its short-form video format and that incredibly addictive algorithm.
That algorithm.
I know, it gets you.
That had to have been a whole other kind of challenge for Snapchat.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. TikTok's arrival really shifted the landscape.
Right.
They weren't just copying features. They were offering a completely different user experience.
Wow.
One that was hyper-personalized and driven by an algorithm that seemed to know exactly what you wanted to watch.
It's scary.
Even before you did.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary how good those algorithms are at predicting our interests.
It really is.
But we can't forget the impact of algorithm changes on Facebook and Instagram themselves. The way content was being prioritized and delivered had huge implications.
It did.
Not just for users, but for businesses and media companies that relied on those platforms for traffic.
It's a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a prime example of how these platforms hold so much power.
They really do.
And even a seemingly minor algorithm adjustment can literally make or break a business.
It's true.
So before we dive into this whole algorithm abyss, let's circle back to Snapchat.
Yeah.
What's their current status? And how did they end up in this position? Well, Snapchat is still around.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, they're not the powerhouse they once were.
Sure.
Instagram and TikTok have definitely taken over in terms of user base and cultural impact.
For sure.
And there's kind of a sense of injustice to it all, isn't there? The innovator, the one who came up with all these groundbreaking ideas, ultimately gets overshadowed by the imitator with deeper pockets.
Yeah.
It's the classic David and Goliath story, but with a much less triumphant ending for David.
Right.
On one hand, you've got Evan Spiegel, the creative visionary,
the dreamer,
who dared to imagine something completely different.
Yeah.
And on the other, you've got Mark Zuckerberg.
The driven one.
Driven by this, like, insatiable ambition to win, to dominate the social media landscape.
At all costs.
No matter the cost.
Yeah.
It really raises the question, who's the good guy in this scenario?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Is there even a good guy?
And does that even matter in the ruthless world of tech?
Good question.
It's complicated, right?
Very.
Because on one hand, you can admire Zuckerberg's business acumen, his ability to recognize a winning formula and capitalize on it.
He's good at that.
But then you have to wonder, at what cost?
Right.
Is it ethical to achieve success by essentially copying your competition?
That's the question.
Yeah. It's a question without easy answers.
It is.
And it's one that we'll be wrestling with as we continue to explore the twists and turns of this fascinating story.
I can't wait. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts so far.
Yeah.
What has stood out to you the most in this whole Snapchat saga?
Okay. I think what strikes me is how this story really kind of encapsulates that whole dilemma of innovation in the digital age. Like, it's not enough to just have a brilliant idea.
Right.
You also have to be able to defend it, to adapt, and even outmaneuver competitors who might have way more resources.
Way more.
It's like you're constantly running a race.
Yeah.
But the finish line keeps moving, and someone's always trying to cut you off at the pass.
Always. Someone right behind you.
Right behind you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Snapchat's attempt to kind of pivot toward that more friend-focused content, well, it didn't work out, does show that they were willing to experiment, at least, to try to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even when you're facing these big setbacks, there's always room for creative problem solving.
Right. They didn't just give up.
No, they kept fighting.
They kept trying to find their lane.
Absolutely.
Which is admirable.
It is.
But speaking of Instagram and their rise to social media dominance, I think it's time we dive into that algorithm abyss.
Let's do it.
That we so eloquently put it earlier.
I like that.
Yeah. Because those algorithm changes, they weren't just some like technical tweaks.
Oh.
They really had a huge impact on the whole social media landscape.
Seismic impact.
Yeah, seismic impact.
For sure.
Think of an algorithm as a gatekeeper.
Oh, yeah.
Deciding what content gets seen by who and how often.
They control everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So when Facebook and Instagram started tweaking their algorithms, it really changed the way users interacted with those platforms.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just about posting something and hoping people would see it.
Not anymore.
Right.
Right.
It became this whole game of figuring out how to please the algorithm gods.
Yeah, appease the algorithm.
So your content could surface above all the noise.
You got to play the game.
You got to play the game.
Yeah.
And this had huge consequences for media companies and businesses that relied on Facebook and Instagram for traffic.
Right.
Suddenly the rules changed.
Everything's different.
And they had to adapt.
Yeah. Some did, some didn't.
Some thrived and some really saw their reach and engagement just plummet.
It's tough out there.
It's a perfect example of how these platforms hold so much power.
They really do.
Right.
Yeah.
And even a small algorithm adjustment can make or break a business.
It's true. And for Snapchat, these algorithm changes on Facebook and Instagram added this whole other layer of difficulty to their struggle for survival.
They were already facing all that competition from Instagram's copycat features, and now they had to deal with this playing field that was tilting even further in favor of these established giants.
Talk about an uphill battle.
It's like trying to climb a mountain.
Yeah.
But somebody keeps moving base camp further away.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, enter TikTok exploding onto the scene with their short-form video format and this completely different approach to algorithms.
It was something new.
Right. TikTok wasn't just mimicking features.
Nope.
They were offering this whole new experience.
Yeah. A whole new world.
It was all about rapid-fire entertainment. Personalized feeds. An algorithm that was like reading your mind.
It's spooky how well it works.
It knew exactly what you wanted to watch before you even knew you wanted it.
It's like magic almost.
It's a game changer.
It is.
Especially for younger audiences who were looking for something super fast-paced and engaging.
Totally.
And it presented a unique challenge for Snapchat, who was still very much focused on that disappearing photo and message format.
Right.
It's interesting to think about how these different platforms used algorithms in such distinct ways. Snapchat was all about connecting with close friends.
Right.
So their algorithm prioritized content from those relationships.
Makes sense.
Instagram, with its broader focus, used algorithms to curate a more diverse feed.
Okay.
A mix of friends, brands, influencers.
Right, a little bit of everything.
And then you have TikTok. Where the algorithm is king.
The algorithm is everything.
It's the driving force behind the entire experience. And it's so effective at keeping people hooked. Scrolling endlessly through this personalized stream of content.
The endless scroll.
It's no wonder TikTok's growth has been so explosive.
It's taken over.
They tapped into something really fundamental about human psychology.
Oh,
Our love of novelty. Our craving for stimulation.
We all want it.
We all want it.
Yeah.
And they did it by leveraging the power of algorithms in a way that no other platform had really mastered before.
It was a whole new level.
So you've got this perfect storm brewing.
Oh, boy.
Right?
Yeah.
Algorithm shifts on Facebook and Instagram, the rise of TikTok, and Snapchat caught in the middle, trying to figure out how to adapt and evolve.
It's trying to survive.
It's almost Shakespearean.
It is dramatic.
All this drama unfolding.
And speaking of drama, remember that time when Zuckerberg offered to buy Snapchat for $3 billion?
$3 billion?
That was just a couple of years after that whole Poke debacle.
Ouch.
Talk about adding insult to injury.
Right.
That's Zuckerberg for you.
Bold move.
Yeah, bold moves, audacious offers. never letting an opportunity slip away.
Never.
And what's even more remarkable is that Snapchat turned him down.
Whoa.
Can you imagine being Evan Spiegel in that moment?
I can't even imagine.
To say no to $3 billion?
That's wild.
That takes some serious guts.
It does.
It shows a deep conviction in your vision, even when everybody seems to be betting against you.
Yeah.
And remember, Spiegel and his co-founder Bobby Murphy, they were still pretty young and inexperienced at the time. They weren't like seasoned tech veterans. They were just two guys with a crazy idea.
That against all odds was starting to take off.
The ultimate underdog story.
It's the ultimate Silicon Valley underdog story.
It really is.
It's a good reminder that success in tech, it's rarely a straight line.
Nope.
There's going to be bumps in the road, moments of doubt,
definitely
tough decisions to make.
You got to make those hard choices.
And Snapchat's story really illustrates that perfectly.
Yeah.
They had their moments of brilliance, like with stories and lenses, but they also made some missteps.
They did.
Like that redesign that alienated so many users.
Yeah.
And they were constantly facing that pressure from Facebook.
Right.
This looming giant.
Always there.
That was determined to maintain its grip on the social media kingdom.
It's a tough position to be in.
It's fascinating how the narrative around Facebook kind of shifted throughout this whole saga.
It really did.
They went from being the cool, innovative upstart to being seen as this corporate behemoth.
The big bad wolf.
The bully that just squashes competition and stifles creativity.
Not a good look.
It's a common trajectory for these tech giants.
Unfortunately.
As they grow in size and influence, they inevitably face more scrutiny. Their actions, even if they're motivated by just a desire to stay competitive, can be perceived as anti-competitive or even predatory.
The tough line to walk.
It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, yeah.
The more Facebook tried to maintain its dominance, the more they kind of fueled this perception of them as the bad guy.
The villain of the story.
It's a delicate balancing act, for sure.
It is.
How do you stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
How do you innovate and adapt without resorting to tactics that could be viewed negatively by the public or regulators?
You don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a question that Facebook and other tech giants like Google and Amazon, they grapple with constantly.
Every day.
It's like this constant tension between this drive for growth and the responsibility that comes with having all this power and influence.
You got to use your power wisely.
It's not just limited to tech companies either.
No.
We're seeing this play out in other industries, too.
It's everywhere.
It's one of the defining challenges of our time.
It really is.
How do we encourage innovation and progress while also making sure that it benefits society as a whole?
That's the goal.
And not just a select few big questions. But before we get too philosophical, I want to bring it back to these individuals at the heart of this story. Evan Spiegel and Mark Zuckerberg. Two incredibly driven, ambitious people,
for sure,
each with their own unique vision and approach.
Different paths to success.
What do you think ultimately motivated them?
Well, it's tough to say for sure.
Right.
But I think for Spiegel, there was this genuine desire to create something new. Something that would change the way people communicate.
Yeah.
He was really drawn to that ephemeral nature of Snapchat.
Yeah.
The idea that you could share a moment and then it would just disappear.
Right.
Leaving no trace.
Like a whisper in the wind.
Exactly.
It's almost like this rebellion against that curated picture-perfect world that social media was becoming.
Right.
Snapchat was this space for authenticity, imperfection, those fleeting moments that make up real life.
It felt real.
Yeah, and that resonated with a younger generation who were increasingly skeptical of all those polished and curated personas that we're seeing on other platforms.
Live all fake.
They wanted something more genuine, more raw, more in the moment.
Something real.
Whereas with Zuckerberg, it seems like it was all about ambition. This relentless drive to win, to be the biggest.
The most influential.
The most influential.
Yeah.
He saw the potential of social media to connect people.
Right.
But he also recognized its power as a business.
Oh, yeah.
A way to build an empire.
And he built it.
And he was willing to do whatever it took to achieve that goal.
At any cost.
Even if it meant acquiring or copying his competitors.
Yeah.
It's a common mindset in tech.
Oh, yeah.
Move fast and break things.
Disrupt or be disrupted.
Right. Disruption is the name of the game.
It's the only way to win.
But there's a fine line.
There is.
Between disruption and destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And in Snapchat's case, it feels like Facebook's copying ultimately led to their downfall.
It's kind of tragic.
At least in terms of their dominance. Yeah. It's almost tragic in a way.
It is.
It's a cautionary tale.
It is.
It's a reminder that even the most innovative ideas aren't immune to the forces of competition and market dynamics.
That's the game.
It all comes back to that question we posed earlier.
Yeah.
Can truly original ideas thrive and maintain their impact in a world where imitation is so rampant?
It's the question.
It's a question that's relevant to any industry.
Absolutely.
Where innovation is key to success.
The big one.
Yeah, it can feel a bit disheartening.
It can.
Like you come up with this brilliant new thing, only to see it just get swallowed up by the bigger players.
It happens all the time.
Makes you wonder if it's even worth trying to be original.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's hopeless.
Yeah.
Snapchat is still out there.
Right.
They're still innovating. Just in a different way now.
Yeah, they carved out this niche focusing on augmented reality and partnerships with media companies.
Smart move.
They didn't just disappear.
Nope.
They're still in the game.
That's a fighting.
Adapting to this ever-changing landscape shows that resilience and flexibility are just as important as that initial spark of innovation.
You got to be able to roll with the punches. Right. In the tech world, standing still is not an option.
No.
You have to constantly evolve, adapt to new challenges, new opportunities. Sometimes that means shifting your focus, refining your strategy, maybe even partnering with some unlikely allies.
Right. Like how Snapchat is working with these media companies to create those really unique experiences, leveraging their strengths in AR and their appeal with that younger demographic. It's like they're finding a new path to relevance.
Yeah.
A way to stand out from those giants like Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, forging their own path.
It's a testament to their ability to pivot.
It is.
When they need to. A good reminder that there's always room for innovation.
There is.
Even in this really crowded and competitive market.
Always room for something new.
Makes me think about the wider implications of this whole Snapchat story.
Yeah.
Talked about innovation versus imitation.
But what about the ethics of all of it?
Right. The ethical side of things.
When we talk about these tech giants, like Facebook copying their smaller competitors, it raises questions about fairness.
It does.
About whether there's even a level playing field.
Right.
About whether the pursuit of growth and profit really justifies these tactics. It's like that old saying, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
But what if the game itself is rigged?
Right. What if the rules are unfair?
In favor of those big players, the ones who have the resources to just acquire or copy their way to dominance.
It's a valid concern.
It is.
And it's something that policymakers and regulators are really starting to look at.
Yeah, there's this growing sense that we need to find a balance between fostering innovation, but also preventing anti-competitive behavior.
Right. We need to make sure everyone has a chance.
We need to create an environment where smaller companies and startups actually have a fighting chance.
It's about creating a fair game.
Right. Yeah. It's a complex issue.
It is.
But it's so important that we're having these conversations.
Absolutely.
That we're thinking critically about the impact of technology.
On lives.
Yeah, on our lives.
And on society.
On society as a whole.
It's a big deal.
I think Snapchat's story is really valuable.
It is.
It's a case study.
A microcosm of the bigger picture.
Yeah. It shows the trends and the challenges
that we're all facing.
You're facing in this digital age.
It's a wild world out there.
So as we wrap up.
Okay.
Our deep dive into Snapchat.
Yeah.
I'm left with a sense of caution, but also optimism.
Interesting.
Caution because the challenges are real.
Oh, yeah.
The stakes are high.
They are.
But optimism because there's still room for originality.
There is.
For creativity, for those who are willing to challenge the status quo.
Yeah. The rebels, the dreamers.
So a final thought.
Okay.
In this ever-changing world of social media,
where imitation is almost inevitable,
it's going to happen.
What strategies can creators and innovators use to not only protect their ideas, but also to make sure they have a lasting impact?
That's the goal. Right.
That's the goal.
To leave your mark on the world.
It's a question worth exploring.
It is.
A challenge worth taking on.
Absolutely.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was fun.
Until next time.